this guy had me playing Minecraft for 3 videos because he wanted me to beat the game because we used to play a lot, talking about how it reminds him of the good times in life. Since at his current situation, he might be homeless due to the situation with his family. And you know what? I did it for him. You know what he tells me though the other day? He said he's depressed and going through his family situation because he wants to move in with somebody. Who, you may ask? Well, let's just say it's somebody who is wearing thigh-high socks. Now, the issue becomes more personal when his family is not really rocking with the zestiness. Very Christian household, traditional Christianity household. I thought he was getting kicked out for another reason. I warned him not to tell his parents about this relationship. Actually, that's the second thing I told him. The first thing I warned him about was dating a femboy to begin with. I've always been very accepting of people on the Aku anime. After having my Discord infiltrated by mostly femboys for the past 5 years, I can assure you the following is just strictly based off of observation, drama, gossip. At least 50% of femboys are manipulative. The other 50% are severely depressed, like genuinely have depression. There is never a happy femboy out there unless he is like showing off to people on the internet. And that's not even like happiness. I call that like joy. You know what I'm saying? Like, then God forbid they get close with someone. They can't maintain a relationship half the time, or the relationship is extremely toxic and becomes essentially unnecessary. I warned him about all of this. And of course, you know how it is. His boyfriend is depressed. He's been unfortunately plagued by mental instability, which I heavily sympathize for. But it gets to the point where it makes my friend depressed as well. So he's trying to do the most to be a good boyfriend and thinking about moving in with him to be supportive. Now, unless you're living under a rock, you would be aware that in this economy, living with your parents, if you could, is the smartest thing to do financially. A lot of things are just not affordable right now on top of the living expenses. So he's going out there trying to move in with somebody who he never met in person. Very high risk. You don't even know how you two would manage in person. Not to mention, you can't really afford it. And your parents are telling you that they're going to kick you out to the curb if you do leave. Especially because of what kind of relationship this is. I would say, honestly, a very unfortunate set of events. But I warned him first and he didn't listen. So now he's going to feel my wrath in today's episode. First things first. We got to talk about the toxicity of parents micromanaging who you choose to love. I find relationships to be very complicated. You should only be in a relationship that doesn't hurt others or yourself. I'm talking in terms of psychological damage rather than subjective beliefs. You may argue my point where I say two depressed people should not be dating each other. Feeding off of each other's sadness only makes you feel like someone can relate to you. This does not imply someone will resolve your issues about what is making you depressed. You can try it, but it never really works out. One person needs to be mostly stable, or at least content, at least. But going back to parents micromanaging, there's a difference between suggesting what may be better versus excessively trying to control something. Using your religion or your own belief system to negate someone's independent decision can ruin the bond someone has with their parents or peers or yourself, right? It doesn't matter if you're a grown adult. Parents can play a part in your dependency for their approval. Personally speaking, my mother is somebody who I have high regard to, and whenever I'm in a relationship. When I start dating, I always introduce my girlfriend to my mother as soon as I'm comfortable knowing she is the right one before judgment comes down. I do have my own dependency on my mother for approval. If she disapproves, I won't break up with them, but I will definitely keep it in heavy consideration, which can strain my relationships. Though she can be judgmental, she understands not to be controlling about it. Even in this case about my friend, I'm not a parent to my friend, of course, but I made a strong warning and suggestion about this turning sour. But I'm not going to sit here and micromanage my friend because I understand that experiencing romance, affection, love is more than just feelings. It's an experience. And I have to be empathetic enough to let him experience the highs and lows of this. He's hurt. I knew he would get hurt. I warned he would get hurt. And I let him get hurt. Because with this situation causing so much problems, guess what? Now they're not dating. If it was truly meant to be, if it was truly stable, it would have never fell apart by someone's judgment, by someone challenging you. The bond you have with someone else is an unwritten understanding, an understanding that this won't fall apart so easily. And his parents putting their traditional beliefs is very hysterical because it shows that people don't really understand their own faith or religion as that they preach. People will follow a religion based on Jesus, but don't follow his footsteps. The gall to call yourself a Christian and you can't follow the loving principles of your prophet is what makes religion so aggravating to many people. Then people wonder why they distance themselves from religion. I'm not subscribed to Christianity nor Catholicism, and I'm not going to sit here and preach the word of Christ for people who can't do the work themselves. But I will say this from somebody who has studied Abrahamic religions for quite some time, I should say rather. Jesus promoted humility, forgiveness, and love. Yet choosing to behave the opposite to shun someone for picking a partner who may abide by a certain gender is very inconsistent, when the fact is, based on the religion, Jesus loves and accepts all. Practicing that is very difficult for many people. So the fact my friend has to deal with this by a parental figure, it's definitely some BS. The other thing that I briefly mentioned that I want to touch on is what I mentioned about the depression part. If both individuals are constantly in a state of sadness, it's obviously going to lead to a cycle of negative emotions. Depression already makes people feel like a burden. It already knocks down someone's self-esteem very easily. How two people can have this persistent feeling and expect to come out together in happiness is very interesting, challenging, because it's already enough work to wake up every day, having to deal with your mental health. Yet you are now taking on someone else's mental health, because in relationships, you're coexisting with someone else's life. And don't get it twisted. I'm not saying two depressed people are 100% going to fail. It's very highly likely, unless there is an extreme priority going on with mental health and communication. And oftentimes, depression makes communication very hard to do. Rather, even understanding your emotion and what you're going through can be very hard to explain or break down to the main root cause of why you're even like this. For anyone here who has or has had depression, or actually, let's talk an update from me. I'm doing a little bit better since I disappeared in June. I'm still taking my medication and I'm going to therapy now, but I still have meltdowns. I was talking about it on my Instagram story just yesterday, by the time I'm recording this video. I've been trying to get off my meds. I've been sneaking. I've been trying to go some days without taking meds because they make me feel empty. And when I take my meds, I don't have much emotion. It makes me have an issue remembering things when I'm on it. So it also makes me very sleepy all the time. So when I'm very sleepy and I'm drowsy, I'm not very productive. And all this stuff is because I have to take all of this I got to take all this stuff because I got hit with 3 different versions of depression in my diagnosis. And let me tell y'all something about dealing with this every day. Sometimes I feel like it's extremely difficult to do my daily routines. Like I said, I can't get work done because I'm drowsy all the time. I'll sleep throughout the whole night. I'll take my medication at 10 a.m. And then I'm going back to sleep at 12 until it's the evening time. And it's crazy because I can feel and recognize my own self-esteem and psyche when I'm off the meds being distorted, and the perception of myself being knocked down negatively without any self-control. Therefore, I have a lot going on where I find it difficult to deal with other people at this moment. And anyone here with depression or has had depression, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It becomes an effort to communicate and manage others. So getting into a relationship with this going on is a terrible thing because it's not fair to both of you unless, again, both of you continue to openly communicate with each other. A constant exchange of emotional support. And what's crazy is that, and a lot of people, they think they're good at this, but they're not. What's crazy is that a lot of people are not good at emotional support. Giving emotional support is like a skill. That's why therapists exist. They are supposed to be professionals at this. The average person does not have the right skill set to do this properly. The average person does not have the right emotional intelligence rather, to do that in a proficient way. My friend and now his ex-partner, you can see how he is depressed now. Now both of them need to get supported. And they're not even trying to work on each other's mental well-being. They're not focused on being sad about that. They're sad about more or less the things that they're personally going through. So how do you think that's going on? This is why my point is emphasized here on why they're not together anymore. In any relationship or bond you have with someone, it can be very hard to stay positive in a world that sets you up for a lot of negativity. As a friend or as a lover to somebody, you should always be prepared to support one another. It can't just be one person doing it. And with this, hopefully, more positive interactions come out of it. And that's how I kind of look at it. As my friend goes through this, I'll be here for him. But this is a lesson we can all learn. Very short episode of the Aku Anime today, but this episode is also on Spotify as well as YouTube if you're listening to this on Spotify. Watch the sun bleed. It's our time to go out while we watch the sun down. Watch the sun down. Watch the sun down. think it's never mine. We try to shine our own way, but the stars are not aligned. Laser on the heat, best bet you better hide. Said to do what's best, now my thoughts are on decline. Take a trip with me, we can share confessions. What's next for us? That's a loaded question. You go first, you have the best expressions. I'm looking up now, I see a dark sky heaven. Watch the sun bleed, it's our time to go out. While we watch the sun down, silent guy forever peace, now there's no doubt. While we watch the sun down, fears or hopes are gone, we don't know what that's about.